The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has arrived in Israel at the start of a week-long tour of the Middle East aimed at reviving Gaza ceasefire talks. He's expected to discuss an end to the war in Gaza, aid and post-war planning with leaders from Israel, Jordan, and Qatar. And Blinken's trip comes just days after the Israeli military killed Hamas's leader, Yahya Sinwar. The U.S. says Sinwar's death presents an opportunity to secure the release of Israeli captives held in Gaza. Mohammed Jamjoom joining us from Jordan's capital, Amman, because the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting inside Israel and inside the occupied West Bank. But we just did see the pictures of Secretary of State Blinken arriving now in Israel. Mohammed, tell us what's on the agenda and what we should be looking out for.
So, Doreen, Blinken is scheduled to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He's also scheduled to meet with Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, as well as Israeli President Isaac Herzog. And there are indications that he'll be meeting with other Israeli political leaders and figures throughout the day as well. Now, since the killing of Yahya Sinwar, many occasions have heard Joe Biden, the U.S. president, say that he believes that this is the right time for Israel to step back from conflict and try to enter back into ceasefire negotiations. That's what the American administration would like to see. They would like to get a deal done before the U.S. election, which is in 2 weeks from today. But the fact of the matter is, at a time when tensions in the region are at an all-time high, expectations for any kind of diplomatic breakthrough are really at an all-time low. The last time that Blinken went to Israel, he had come out publicly and stated that Netanyahu had agreed to a framework deal for a ceasefire. And it was just hours later that Netanyahu actually came out and publicly contradicted him. And time after time, you must remember, this is the 11th trip that Blinken has taken to Israel since October 7th. Time after time, this kind of pattern has repeated itself, where Blinken goes, he gets in front of the cameras, he indicates that he believes that they are on the cusp of some type of a deal, and that the Israeli prime minister has agreed with him in principle, and then Netanyahu will come out and publicly either deny it or contradict Blinken. So that's why expectations are at such an all-time low. That all being said, though, Blinken is going to go to other countries in the region. He is going to try to lower the temperature at a time when everybody is concerned about what this promised Israeli retaliation on Iran for that strike that Iran conducted with ballistic missiles towards Israel on October 1st. The Israelis continue to say that they are very close to conducting the strike, that it is going to be severe. It's got the region on tenterhooks. Blinken would like to lower the temperature, but again, really the indications right now is that all the diplomats involved in this do not think that there can be any type of a deal anytime soon.
Okay, thank you so much, Mohammed Jamjoom. Thanks for that reporting from Amman. We can now speak to Yossi Beilin, who's a former Israeli justice minister, joining us from Tel Aviv. Thanks for your time. Are you confident that the Secretary of State Blinken is now in Israel to try to achieve some sort of breakthrough? And is Netanyahu willing to go along with that at this point?
Well, to explain Netanyahu, I think that he deserves a better spokesman than myself. What I can say is that I'm hopeful that this visit of the Secretary of State, Blinken, will contribute to the option of a ceasefire. It is really time to end this war. We are all paying a very high price. We are all suffering. We are all victims. And again, we are competing with each other, who is the bigger victim. But ending the war is a must. And if there is a possibility to release all the hostages and to end it, I think that Netanyahu should take this opportunity and by that put an end to this war. I hope that as a result of it also the Hamas leadership will leave Gaza and enable Arab forces, and first and foremost the Palestinian Authority, to enter Gaza and to manage it.
I see what you say about being hopeful. I'm sure a lot of people share your sentiment. But when you hear comments like from the Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, for example, referring to Lebanon, saying we're essentially moving from a situation of defeating Hezbollah, that's according to him, to a state of destruction. I mean, what does this tell you about the direction that Israel will head to next in Lebanon as well as in Gaza?
In Lebanon, it is a different story, although it began with the promise of the Hezbollah to fight since a year ago in identification and supporting Hamas. But there are very different groups there. In Lebanon, what is needed is that Hezbollah will move to the north of the Litani River. If that happens and the UN Resolution 1701 is fulfilled, then it should be the end of the war. And so if somebody says, or even Gallant himself says that it is the idea is the destruction of Hezbollah, I don't think that we are close to a destruction of Hezbollah, that it is doable, that it is realistic. And our original demand, which is more than reasonable, that Hezbollah will fulfill the UN resolution and go to the north of the river, so that the Israelis who left their homes will return to their homes, is something that can happen in realistic and can happen tomorrow.
When it comes to sort of what's happening with Iran and the anticipated Israeli strike on Iran, we also have the Iranian foreign minister who's touring the region right now, as well as Blinken, of course, touring the region. So there seems to be a flurry of diplomatic activity. What do you think will happen with the issue of Iran and Israel?
Well, I hope very much that we are not entering a vicious circle of strikes between Iran and Israel. Now it is the Israeli turn, so everybody is waiting for the decision of the Israeli cabinet, how to strike, when to strike, where to strike. And if it happens, of course, then the Iranians will feel the need to prove that they are not weak and that they are able to retaliate. And we may enter here something which is very, very dangerous. I hope, I don't know how realistic it is, that Iran itself will get into another stage and say, okay, this is the situation. We don't want to continue this vicious circle, or to create a vicious circle. And we are ready to talk to our proxies in order to lower the level of the flames and end this war and get to some interim agreements, because they will not enter into an agreement with Israel. They don't recognize the Jewish state, and they will not do that. But at least interim understandings through third parties is something that I think is not totally crazy.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you for speaking to us from Tel Aviv.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.